Hello and welcome to another Fight Ulcerative Colitis video. My name is Peter and I decided to make this video to share with you my story, or at least a brief version of my story, and how I got into this, and what I will go through what I went through and where I am now. So if you're interested, if you want to know a little bit more about my fight, that's the video for it, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. I would like to say it all started at the end of 2016, but I would probably be wrong, because I guess all the factors that caused the ulcerative colitis probably started many years before that. Currently, I think that this was caused, my ulcerative colitis was caused due to abuse of alcohol and cigarettes, and also a lot of stress from work, from personal life and things like that. So at the end of 2016, like November or December of 2016, I started noticing blood when I go to the toilet early in the morning, and I didn't have any other symptoms back then, and I already knew I had some sort of hemorrhoids. So basically I thought that's okay, that's something that it had happened before, and it will pass, so just hang in there, stay a little bit away from the alcohol and spicy food, you'll be fine. So that's what I tried, and I tried it for like 2 or 3, even more months, and it didn't work. The blood kept coming, and I had to go to a doctor. So what do? I had a friend of mine that was recently having similar problems, and he went to a special surgeon, and I went to the same surgeon as well. So he did some examination, he checked me out, and he said, you do have, of course, hemorrhoids, and they might probably be the reason, but if I were you, I would do colonoscopy. And of course, no one wants to do a colonoscopy if he has a choice, so I didn't do it. And I thought, if I'm going to be suffering from the hemorrhoids, I can just go to a hemorrhoid healing clinic and I can get rid of the hemorrhoids. So I went to one of these clinics. I had another doctor examine me back then. He this time used the camera. He did a more thorough analysis, and he said that although my hemorrhoids are bleeding, and that's mainly the cause of my blood, when I go to the toilet, there is still a little bit of blood above the hemorrhoids, so I should really get a colonoscopy. And that was March. I'm not really sure which day of March, but I did schedule an appointment for a colonoscopy in that first clinic that I went to, with a gastroenterologist, a professor in gastroenterology, very well, there is a good feedback, a lot of good feedback for this guy. He did the colonoscopy, and on the same day that he did the colonoscopy, I went to see him, see what are the results. He of course took some samples for biochemical analysis, but he already had the picture. He already kind of knew what it is going to be. Just wanted to have this confirmed by the lab. But he said, you have ulcerative colitis. Come back in 4 or 5 days when the histological analysis will be completed. We'll tell you exactly if that's what you have or if it's something else. So I went there again. He said, yeah, as we expected, that's what you're having, and you should start drinking pills. And you should start with a huge amount of pills. I started with 12 pills, so Falk daily. I can go through my records. I keep all the records and all the information. All the examination and all the blood tests and everything I had. I keep all this information. You should do it as well, and you should keep track. And if you can, even also keep a diary or a log or something, what food you're eating, what are your symptoms after that. How does your body take it? How do you feel? It's important for you to monitor yourself, especially if you're not used to it. You really need a diary, but. Anyway, that's just so basically I was taking like 12 pills of Falk, and it's important to know that back then I didn't have any other symptom than the blood in the toilet. After taking Self-Help for like several months, I lowered the dosage from 12 to 6 pills, and I started having all the others, or most of the other symptoms. I started having diarrhea. I started having, feel full, or when I eat something, I start having gas, and all these things I didn't have before. So I thought maybe these pills are not that good. Maybe they're causing the part of the symptoms. And when you look at the actual pill information, when you get this little flyer when you get to the pills and you open the box, and some of them have side effects similar to the actual ulcerative colitis symptoms, which doesn't really make sense because they're supposed to be killing the symptoms. It's not gonna heal the disease. Doctor said it's autoimmune. We don't know what caused it. Could be anything, mainly stress. People in your age are at the highest risk. So I, of course, asked the doctor immediately if maybe the alcohol, I should stop it. Should I stop smoking? Should I stop spicy food? Should I go on a diet? Everything like that. The main thing he said is that it doesn't matter. Alcohol probably would irritate probably the hemorrhoids at least, maybe even the colon. And the other thing he said, smoking might actually help. There are some researches in West Europe that are showing better results with smokers than the people that don't or haven't ever smoked. So that's really weird. But anyway, he said that doesn't matter. Spicy food, of course, is not good to have. But apart from that, you can eat gluten, you can eat dairy products, you can eat meat, everything's fine. And as I said, for several months I tried these Self-Help pills, and I going through different gastroenterologists asking for second and other opinions. I got to a point where one of them offered another way to monitor my infection, my inflammation, by the quantity of calprotectin protein in the stool. So basically what you do, you give a sample when you go to the toilet, you bring it to him or to a lab or whatever place you have this equipment to do the test. They test it for the quantity of calprotectin, and based on the quantity they determine if you have inflammation in your gut. So the basic number should not go over 50 units. If you have ulcerative colitis or inflammatory bowel disease, or if you have Crohn's disease, if you have some bowel inflammation diseases, you might go to up to 80 units, but everything above 80 units is actually showing inflammation. And I was like that, running these regular checks every several weeks, and at some point I was like showing 300 being on the pills, and I drank, he gave me some antibiotics, then they killed the inflammation for maybe a week or two, and then it went again over 300 units. I remember like in a couple of weeks I had 2 or 3 tests. They were all higher than 300 units, and what the gastroenterologist said is usually when I have a patient like that, I take him in the hospital. I get him to, I am getting him in a bed, and he's having 2 weeks of infusion of steroids. So he said, I can get you in the hospital, I can hospitalize you, and I would suggest 2 weeks of steroids, bloodly infused, and then like 1 or 2 months on pills against steroids, and this should work. And I'm like, okay, and if this works, what's my next step? And he said, you're going back to Self-Help. And if it doesn't work, what's my next step? He said, if it doesn't work, well, steroids will always work, but the thing is that I went prepared and I read some articles about it. I went some forum opinions about it, and people said that they go on steroids for 2 or 3 months, then the inflammation is killed, and everything is back to normal. And then when they stop the steroids in like the next month of that kind of time, they go back, they get back the inflammation, and they need to go on the immune suppressive drugs. So I asked him that, and I said, from what I see, like maybe, I don't know, I don't have a statistical expert, but like 90% of people from these steroids are actually climbing up one more step on the ladder, and they're going on immune suppressive drugs because these steroids are just very temporary solution. And he said, well, that's kind of like true, but that's what the process is. That's how we handle this kind of situation. And then I realized that there is a ladder that you're climbing when you go on the medical and the drug kind of path handling this disease, that you start with something very basic like sulfate. I've seen there's some other drugs. Most of them are based on the active ingredient is mesalazine. Not every in each of them, but most of them, I guess. The idea is the same. And if this drug doesn't help, you go on to steroids, and then you go on the immune suppressant, and then at the top of the ladder there is a surgery and they remove your gut. So if you want to go this road, go ahead. And I was like, I don't want to go to a hospital for 2 weeks to be on steroids. I know all the I don't probably know them all, but there are a lot of negative side effects of steroids. I don't want to drink steroid pills for the next 2 months after that, and all of this negative impact and all these toxins and all this waste, then to be absolutely pointless if in a week or two or month or two I will still need to go up one step in the ladder and start using immune suppressive drugs. So what I did, and with a lot of help from my relatives, I got a lot of help from my mother in this situation. She went through tremendous researches as well. I went to a more different approach. I started looking for a dietary solution. I started looking for a I went to trying different diets. I went to trying different foods. I went to the path where I monitor how my gut is accepting different food, and then starting to find a way what I can eat, what I cannot eat, and eventually ended up to reading some books, reading some articles, watching some videos, following some guys on some Twitter, whatever, just collecting as much information as I can. Went through all sorts of different doctors. Now what I am at the moment trying, and that seems to be working very well, is eating mainly fruit, raw fruit, mainly bananas and watermelons, melons, things like that. I'm drinking vegetable juices a lot: celery, cabbage, cucumber, you name it, carrot, beet even. I'm trying this kind of solution, and since I've been inflamed for a lot of months already, and I haven't stopped bleeding for all that time, I'm seeing the best results now with this fruit-based diet, and I can tell I'm kind of almost rid of any bleeding and anything like that. So fingers crossed. If you want to try this route, I'm not saying that I'm gonna stay vegan or I'm gonna eat all raw fruit, vegetables, and things like that, but I'm going to try, and I'm trying to get to a balanced place. I want to have part of the food for me to come from animal products and things like that, but most of it will have to remain definitely fruit based and vegetables and more like vegan, vegetarian stuff. So if you want to try this, and if you're interested in this solution, it should be healthy for many other things. Some people that they claim that their hair started growing back. There should be many benefits for the body if you're using your normal and the food you're designed for. So follow me, subscribe. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down. And just stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.